where do you see mentorship in today's society and men in general? Because you turned out a pretty good dude.
I think it depends on the circle of young men growing up, because I have been privileged to experience willing to lean into an uncomfortable journey that is their own growth and development. They have to deal with that.
Dave Schmeikal, a creative artist whose journey is both heart-wrenching and inspiring. Dave left his home due to religious differences, beginning a profound quest for self-discovery across the country. In the wake of a devastating fire that claimed all of his possessions, he discovered humanity's kindness and resilience. Despite the deep personal tragedy of losing a brother to murder, Dave found solace and insight through artistic expression. Now, as a visionary behind a thriving mural business, he channels his experiences into sharing the healing power of art with the world. A lot of men don't express themselves through art.
Or at all.
Yeah, they don't express themselves. So what are the things that are preventing us from expressing ourselves?
As a man, you are a provider. We were raised to respect our elders. And in the respecting of our elders, as fundamental, as necessary as it was, also is a handicap in a lot of ways that prevent us as men to really give ourselves permission to express ourselves, because it's not appropriate. That's not who you are. That's not what you do.
So I was researching the other day, and the largest mural in the world is called, the Great Wall of Los Angeles.
Oh.
And it's in California.
I thought, I guess that's the tallest mural in the world.
I think so. It's 2,700 and something feet. It's long, which is huge. And I was thinking about you because you've been doing some pretty big stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Trying to.
Well, I just saw the most recent one you did right at Dogma. You finished it up.
Yep.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, this conversation I know is going to be a good one. A lot of things we're going to talk about. And, the segue into this having, the Great Wall is because we're going to talk about a lot of big subjects, things that are important to you, things that are important to me, things that are important to our listeners. And I'm excited about this. When you and I had this conversation, this is a couple months in the making. I knew when I saw you on stage when you were speaking, I was like, this guy's good. He's got a great story. Then I watched your documentary, your film, which is amazing. So we're going to touch on a lot of different, really deep topics. So David, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, man. I have also been very much looking forward to this. Yeah. Checking my calendar to see how many days are left. It's almost like Christmas, but a different type of Christmas.
Asian Santa Claus, man.
Right. Yeah.
So, but your story is an interesting one, man. Like I get addicted to listening to other people's stories because I always believe that your story is someone else's inspiration. I'm not going to lie to you, man. Like the stuff in your story was very inspirational. But let's just jump in a time machine now. And you talked. You grew up in Dover, right?
I did. Yeah, Dover and Forest Lawn.
Yeah, I grew up in Scarborough in Toronto. Rough area. Right? How was Dover growing up?
Well, it was hard, and it was even harder because of who my family was and how we were in the community as Jehovah's Witnesses. And so right away I had this poster that I carried around, right? Like that I was already different from everybody else. I didn't participate in anything during school, wasn't allowed. I was always the one in the library kind of by myself when things were happening, whether it was national celebrations or just holiday celebrations, all that stuff. I was not allowed to be a part of it. So it was hard to feel like I was a part of it because I wasn't. Right. And so that alongside of it being, there were people that were troublemakers in those areas. And I was an easy one to pick on because I was already not part of everything else going on. So I had to deal with that.
When you're talking about troublemakers in the church or in the
schools, in the neighborhood. Yeah. Thankfully not in the church.
Yeah, I was wondering.
That would have sucked.
Yeah, that would have sucked. Jehovah's Witness gang.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, and there are cliques in that. We can talk a little bit about that, but I think there's cliques in every little ecosystem, right? As we congregate, there's a tendency for that to happen.
Yeah, well, church is supposed to bring people together. There's this energy about having a communal experience where people share the same values. There's some good things. I mean, even myself, I moved away from it, man. Like I saw the institution of church, and I didn't agree with it. A lot of the teachings, great teachings. I don't think there's many religions out there that teach, killing people, right? So I'm sure, you got some stuff out of that.
Absolutely. I am a man of a high moral compass, and I lean on my values. I believe in treating others as I'd want to be treated. Like, there are some fundamental principles there that will always be relevant. How they're used is subjective, of course, depending on the person. And I had witnessed that as I was inside of the organization there, and just saw how people, when a decision was made, like the one that I made later on in life, to not be a part of it for my own reasons, well, now you're out. And it doesn't matter if you are part of a family or if you have close friends. If you're not part of the organization, you're not part of the family anymore. And so I had to deal with that. And that was a challenge. Now, me being the type of person that I know myself to be now, which I didn't really know then, the resilience that you speak to, just it turned on, right? It gave me what I needed to do what I needed to do. And it was pretty much on autopilot at that point, but I'm grateful for that.
So what was the impetus to make that decision? Oftentimes when people want to leave a certain group, an organization, a club, gang, it's tough.
Yeah.
Right? So there has to be that TSN turning point where you're like, enough's enough, I got to go. What was it?
Well, one of my good friends growing up, he was going through a hard time, and he was losing his father. And his father was a high-ranking person in the church, and he dealt with so much. He ended up being institutionalized for a little while. Like, he was only 15 years old. And the support that he was getting by the organization was atrocious. Wow. And the ridicule and the finger pointing. And I'm just like, aren't we supposed to do this differently? That became the first kind of crack that fragmented this belief system that I was brought up to lean in, absolutely, not question. And then I started to question it. And when I started to bring up my concerns and my curiosities, they were dismissed and diminished, not to be questioned, and don't go there. I'm like, what is going on right now? Yeah. And so I didn't really know what to do about it, because I'm not a confrontational person. At least I wasn't. I can be a bit confrontational now, but I pick my battles as well. And at the time, I would just go with the flow. And I had a reputation for that, right? Like, he's just a chill dude.
Chill.
And, yeah, nothing phases him. Pretty stoic. I still to this day, when I share what's going on in my world, they're like, dude, I would never know. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, but we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And so I just made a choice, and I disappeared. Like, I didn't ruffle any feathers. I didn't make any declarations around it, because usually how it goes is you decide you're not wanting to be a part of it. So you got to go through a process. And because I was a baptized Christian, I committed myself to this. There's bigger repercussions. I just left. And it was a conversation that I had with two colleagues at my work, voicing, and one of them actually used to be a witness as well, voicing my frustration and just feeling like I need to do something else. I had family in Vancouver, and I'm like, I don't know, I just feel pulled pulled to the West Coast.
What was it about Vancouver?
Well, what is it? What is it about the ocean? I think is really the end of the day. I'm a prairie boy. I was born and raised on the prairies. Like, you can see your dog running for 1,000 miles kind of thing. I wanted something different, and it seemed like the most obvious different thing that I could think of that wasn't too far out. Right. So go to the West Coast, try living the ocean life. Right.
When you eventually decide to take off and leave, go to Vancouver, walk me through that experience telling your parents, or did you just one day they look in your bedroom or they call you and you're gone?
It was almost like that.
Oh, no way.
It was almost like that. Yeah.
Houdini.
So I had the conversation with my colleagues, and they're like, well, we'll just drive you. We'll do a road trip. We'll drive you to Vancouver, and then you can go meet your cousin. I'm like, you would do that? Yeah, of course. And of course, we're 18 years old. There is no responsibilities really at that point. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, fuck it. Let's do it. And it happened fast, probably within a week. I think my parents at the time, they were living in Fort McMurray, but they had come down for a visit, if I recall. And I let them know, and this part's a little hazy for me, but I let them know, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. And the morning that I was going to do the trip, I had my stuff in a few garbage bags. I had my Mac G3 tower from when I was trying to figure out what to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I was on my way out the door. I was going to sneak out. And my mom woke up and she came outside. She's like, are you going? Or something to that effect. And so I almost ghosted, but then I didn't. And it's a good thing that I didn't. It would have been really hard now as a parent to have that experience with one of my own kids. It would have been a hard thing.
Were they accepting when you left, or was it?
They had no choice.
Yeah.
They just had no choice. Like, I was going.
Mm-hmm. How did that impact your relationship with them? Once you land in Vancouver, are they supportive? Are they talking to you? How you doing, son?
No, not really.
Okay.
So because of the decision that I made, I wasn't actually, they weren't supposed to talk to me. Like that was the action that needed to be followed, the rules to follow.
Okay.
And so for a good few years, I was not in contact with them at all. And it wasn't until I had a seizure at work and uncovered a brain tumor, like 2.5 years later, that my family came back into the picture because of now this big thing. Obviously, they're going to want to be there for, their son is dealing with something. But up until that point, I was definitely on my own.
It must be tough as a parent when you're trying to follow your faith and, your heart, because your parent loves you. Yep. They want to be there for you, and you're torn between two places and you start to question things. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And it takes time to reconcile it when I think about the dynamic of the relationship now and what it's taken to get to this point. And my brother as well, but I had two brothers growing up. One's no longer with us. The youngest one, he's now, I think he turned 40 this year, actually. And he made a very public declaration that I am not participating in this anymore. And he would always challenge my dad about the faith and the belief systems, not from a poking of the bear, but just from a place of curiosity, like wanting to know. Never really getting a direct answer. And so the dynamic between him and the parents and between me and the parents were very different. He wanted to challenge it. I wanted to pick my battles. I didn't think it was worth my time or effort. Like, to what end? Why am I gonna do this? It's not gonna help them. It's not gonna help me. I think there is better things to invest my time and energy into.
So you mentioned that you were a bit of a stoic and things don't usually faze you. when you go through a brain tumor and they're slicing up, making incisions in your
I had
head.
a zipper on my head for a little while.
When you have that, what goes through your mind now? Because as a Stoic, you tend to be chill. Are you like, you have an existential crisis? Are you like, what's going to happen?
I did have a bit of an existential crisis there. Worry, really. I had a conversation, some of my poetry, I wrote about it. I had a conversation with my best friend, the guy who dealt with the loss of his dad. He ended up moving out to Vancouver as well for a change, and we lived together. And I had a conversation with him when I first discovered it, and the first doctor had a pretty dark outcome. It's like, you are not likely going to make it out of this brain surgery, probably going to deal with paralysis of all sorts. Maybe you're going to drink food out of straw now moving forward. Like, it was a pretty bleak scenario. The second doctor had a different story. That's the doctor I went with.
Yeah.
But with him, with my friend and I made a pact with him that if it did go the other way, that he would do something about it, put a pillow over my face, like, just let me go. Would we have done it? I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to worry about whether, like, needing to answer that question. But it was a big worry for me. Like, I was just starting life. I was only 21, right? And a friend of mine growing up in school, same age, he died from a brain tumor. It was about 10 years later, in his 30s, but he died from it. Very, very similar circumstance. So that was a reality, a potential reality. But here I am, 25 years later. I think I'm doing all right.
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I was roughly around the same age, I had peroneal nerve damage and had paralysis from my knee down. I go to a hospital in St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, and they said I'd never be able to walk again.
Oh.
I had one doctor said, maybe it's saving us. You give the patient the worst case scenario, and if you go, you don't want to give them too much hope, right? And he said, you'll never walk. You'll have a cane the rest of your life. There's going to be a permanent limp. It's going to be.
I would never know.
Yeah, he said, I still have a little bit of paralysis in my left leg, and so I tore that the peroneal nerve damage. But very similar to you, I said, you know what? I had this existential crisis, and what's this all about? I'm just starting my life. And I think we have to go through some type of trauma.
We have to
at least steer us, because if not, if you're too comfortable in life,
there's no contrast.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't appreciate anything. Yeah.
You can't like the good if you don't know what bad is.
Yes.
Otherwise,
the world of duality.
The good could be bad.
Yeah.
Right. That could be your calibration.
There's a book called it's not Strange New World. I think it might be A Strange New World, where they talked about what if we ended war and there was just peace? Would we really like that? Imagine if everyone is numb and there's no contrast. You kind of need that. So your contrast, you have a brain tumor, you fight through it, and you decide to leave, right? You took off from Vancouver on another journey. It seems like your life is about these different chapters and journeys. Yeah. Where did you take off to?
Well, I'd love to say that I landed on the coastline of Vancouver and lived La Vida Loca, but I did live La Vida Loca, but it was starting. I don't know if you have any context for geography on the West Coast side of things, but I started in Surrey.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I started in Surrey, Guildford, which is the equivalent of Forest Lawn here in Calgary. So I'm like, and because that's where my cousin was, right? And I slept on my cousin's couch, who I didn't know very well at the time, but started to get to know. And so I started this journey from the farthest I could from the water, and it took me a decade to get to the west, to the coastline, to Vancouver proper. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to experience the coastline, you should start there.
Go to the coast.
Yeah. But that was my journey, and it, it was what it needed to be, right? And I think everybody that I met along that path, they were the necessary collisions for me to have to get to the destination where I'm at now. I don't know if I'd have met my wife had it gone through a different turn of events. Mm-hmm. It was just how it had to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, you talked about you met certain people. You've had mentors in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those characters. Talk to me about how your mentors have helped you along the way, because you're in Surrey now, which is, from what I know, it's not the economic, powerhouse of Vancouver. It's a little rougher.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little rougher. I think there's some gangs there, but I don't want to stereotype, but it's a little bit rougher in there. But I remember reading and listening that you had a couple of mentors, and some of your mentors guided you a certain way and gave you some harsh feedback,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that can be a little bit tough. What kind of feedback did they give you that would have been like, holy shit, okay?
Well, I'd like to say that my mentors were there during that journey, but they actually didn't show up until I moved back to Calgary.
Oh, no way.
So my journey in Vancouver was very much improvising and on my own, never really fitting in anywhere still. So I'm still carrying this, to this day, I'm carrying this narrative with me that I don't fit in. And I suspect it's probably a human being thing more than a me thing, but sometimes we want to feel sorry for ourselves. So inside of all of these groups, these cliques of people, through girlfriends and coworkers, and never just really finding my spot. I suppose there was mentorship in that, but I wasn't paying attention to it. I was just living moment to moment, playing dangerously with recreation drugs based on who I was around. Thankfully, didn't let that grab hold like it grabbed hold on many people. I don't have that tendency, I don't think. I don't know, maybe that's a story I tell myself, and I'm just lucky I dodged a bullet. I would say that the first mentor that showed up again would have been, as I think about it, it's kind of funny. It would have been my brother, my youngest brother.
Really?
When we reconnected in Germany. So I was still living in Vancouver, and then this opportunity presented itself to run a bed and breakfast in Germany for a year. Big story around that. I won't go into all the details there, but oh my God, what a shit show when it first started. It's a lesson in being careful who you try and help, because there's a lot of entitled people in this world. And my parents experienced that firsthand there. But it also created an opportunity for my brother and I. And we were truly mentors to each other, because here I am, his oldest brother, who he doesn't know very well. We're reconnecting in a foreign land, right? And we're going to be together for a year, just him and I running this thing. And while doing that, we were going to go do some traveling. I actually met a friend, a colleague that I connected in Vancouver through a friend who was from South Africa. He's from Australia. He lived in Vancouver for a little while, happened to be in Germany and came to visit. And then he was staying in Barcelona. And so we went to go to Barcelona. Like, it was this funny little surprising connecting of dots, unlikely connecting of dots across the bloody planet. And it created this unique opportunity for both my brother and I. For me to witness my brother and this like fully self-expressed young man without any fears. I shouldn't say any fears. He was dealing with a lot of fears, actually. He was a bit of a hypochondriac. Okay. He was always worried whether something was going to get him sick or ill or whatever, right? We went to a hookah lounge, and I saw on the computer he was Googling whether smoking a hookah will give you cancer. I'm like, dude, you got to lighten up a little bit here. It's fine.
He wasn't a bubble boy though, was he?
No, but he was nervous. And I say he's a mentor because when I look at the journey that he took on and where he's at now, he does. He participated in the early days when we were in Germany. He was just exploring parkour.
Wow.
beginning of that journey. He's been doing it for 25 years now, and also doubles in stunts for movies.
Talk about being, cautious and safe to
Flipping.
American Ninja Warrior type stuff.
Truly. And like Spider-Man level
crazy.
grace in terms of what he's capable of doing. It blows my mind.
Now, does he know that you consider him a mentor? You ever tell
If
him?
he ever watches this podcast, he probably will. It's actually not a conversation that him and I have had. It's never really come up like this.
Right.
I think that the prompt that you are bringing in terms of the timeline, my mentors, like the ones that I have leaned on intentionally, well, it's a different interaction than the ones that have impacted me passively and from the sidelines almost, right? Like not by design, because I happen to be paying attention. In a lot of ways by accident. So I really appreciate who my brother became, like what it took for him to lean into the uncomfortable truth about himself and show up and be somebody else.
You know, I can relate to that because I was estranged from my brother for a couple of years, got back together, and you know, sometimes when you have the brother dynamic, it's different. Like sometimes you just by virtue of just being siblings, you butt heads, maybe personalities, maybe you're fighting for a certain spotlight. But to consider a brother as a mentor, it's a special thing because they don't actually intend to be it. They just try to live their life, and if they're living a good life and you're open to being a student of life, you see the lessons that sometimes life gives you.
Yeah, and I do think it's a hindsight phenomenon. Had you talked to me then, I would have had a different story about my brother, right? Because I wasn't aware and I wasn't in that reflective mode of what was and how that impacted me now. And I think mentorship only happens in hindsight. We seek something. A lot of times we can't even articulate what we're seeking, and then people show up and act as bumpers, right, to kind of keep us in play. But it's volatile and it's uncomfortable, and it's not what you think it is. It's not this graceful journey with this individual by your side who you can offload your 100-pound rucksack on. No, man, he just put another 50 pounds on your backpack, and you don't want that, and you don't like it, and who are you? Like it is a very antagonistic friction, I think, with mentorship. It's not what the world paints it as, I don't think.
Do you think young men now, let's say you look back, because you were in your mid-20s at that time?
Yeah, I would have been
mid-20s.
26, 27.
You look now with 24-year-olds, 26-year-olds, that demographic. Where do you, just based off of what you currently see, where do you see, where are they getting mentorship? Because when we were in our 20s, social media influencers weren't a big deal.
Well, they didn't really exist.
They didn't exist. You know, my mentors, literally, I was looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger and, you know, Sylvester Stallone, and any movie that had a workout montage that got me pumped up, I was like, that's how it is to be a man. But you fast forward to where we are now. Where do you see mentorship in today's society and men in general? Because you turned out a pretty good dude. Where do we see our 24-year, this generation of 24-year-olds, where are they going to be when they're our age? Where do you foresee that?
I think it depends on the circle of men, young men growing up, because I have been privileged to experience groups of young men that are empowered and willing to lean into an uncomfortable journey that is their own growth and development. And I think that I don't think it's ever going to change. Through time itself, we are going to deal with a group of people who have been dealt a hand that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And they have to deal with that. And they've got people in their environment, you know, floating around that are positively and negatively influencing them. I had positive and negative influences without a doubt. And each of them were critical, kind of like what we talked about, this contrasting experience. Right. We need to know what's good to understand, or rather reverse, what's bad to know what's good. And so I'm confident and optimistic that our next generation are going to be okay, because I've seen the ones that have surprised me, that inspire me. That's like, wow, I think we're okay. And then there are those that are like, dude, you need to go in a ring somewhere and get the shit kicked out of you a little bit.
Do something hard.
You bring your ego down and come back to reality here. But this is through the ages. It's always happened that way, right? So depends what circle, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, the great Jim Rohn always says, you're the average of the top 5 people you most closely associate with. And I think once a young person realizes that we are impacted by the people we surround ourselves, it's up to them to
it's their opportunity.
It's like, wait a second, if I continue going down this path of drugs and gangs, I'm likely going to end up in a bad place. And that season in their life serves a purpose, because now you can appreciate when good people come into your life. Yeah.
It's like my other brother. Mm-hmm. So he, even though there was a time where I was painted as the black sheep of the family because I was defiantly against what the faith was that we as a family believed in, my middle brother, Jonathan, was the true black sheep. Mm. And it was not through any fault of his own per se. He dealt with some situations that I will never ever know what actually transpired, but I have no doubt that there were some situations that happened that caused him to internalize what had happened and trigger additional personalities as a protective mechanism for himself to show up in a different way as a result of the environment that he's now dealing with. Right. He became a chameleon.
What kind of environment was he in? Because, you were raised in a faith-driven environment. Your other brother was, he's not a bubble boy, but he was safe, trying to be safe.
Absolutely. And he was treated as such, like to protect him.
Because he had an obvious, impairment at that time, right? And your other brother, the one you said passed away, what happened in his situation? Because I know that when you and I were talking before, you touched on that. So he had some negative experiences or negative influences in his life. So completely different from your experience in having positive people. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into specifics, only that I think he was mentally and physically abused by somebody close. And so that's as far as I'll go about that. And that moment triggered something for him, I believe. And because he was eventually diagnosed as bipolar and schizophrenic and all of those things like that much later. Like the things that happened when he was much younger. And so the resulting sequence of events that unfolded was him leaning into this protective mechanism, this psychosis, and this personality, this persona that showed up. His name was Johnny Bravo. So there's Jonathan, and then there's Johnny Bravo.
It's an alter ego effect.
Yeah, and when Johnny Bravo emerged and took over, because there was a fairly long time where it was just Johnny Bravo, it wasn't Jonathan anymore. He went down a pretty dark path. He was homeless. He was doing drugs. He dealt with the darkest parts of society, right? So he had a very different journey. But here's an interesting thing about my brother. He was raised like we were raised, with strong values and a moral compass of what's right and wrong. And I believe that stuck around. It just manifested differently as who he then was, right? And when the detectives came to the door to tell me, to let us know that he had passed, that somebody had taken his life, the string of events that unfolded to lead to the capture of his killers is untypical of how that normally goes. And the detective said so. Because of who my brother was as a guardian for people who could not protect themselves in that dark world, people came forward because of who he was to them. And it allowed the connecting of the dots to happen such that his killers were found, and found rather quickly within, I think, 3 months.
Yeah. So he had a reputation, a good guy reputation in a bad environment.
Yeah, as the bad guy.
As the bad guy.
Johnny Bravo was the good guy in the bad environment. Like, it's a weird juxtaposition between, because he was always a bit of a rebel.
Yeah.
He always had to defy authority. And yeah, it was who he was. And it was that I hold on to, and I am reminded of, like, just how fragile our mind is, and how important it is for us to strengthen it, build its resilience, to pay attention to what's going on. There are these narratives. We were talking earlier about the different voices, and I've got stories about that as well. I also believe that it's not just us along for the ride here. This isn't David. Right now it's David, or maybe not. Maybe if I were to pay a little more attention, one of my characters is showing up in this mode. And I believe that there are 4 other characters with me, and I've given them all names, and I know which ones are showing up based on circumstance and the need in the moment, right?
There's a great book called The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman, and he taught Kobe Bryant. You know, Kobe Bryant had the Mamba mentality. When Kobe Bryant was going through some difficult times in his earlier on in his career, he turned into the Black Mamba. So when he's on the basketball court, he's just this different guy. Sasha Fierce is the alter ego for Beyonce. A lot of these guys, Mike Myers was renowned to have an alter ego. He's highly introverted, but when he's out there, he's Austin Powers and so forth. I actually have one alter ego as well. Yeah, I put a name to him as well. And certain characters, when he comes out, it's weird. He hasn't come out in quite some time, but you need to have that.
What's his name?
Mark Grayson. I was going to say Marcus Grayson. Yeah, it's interesting because the first Marcus, or Mark, is from Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, and Grayson was from Dick Grayson, who is the last name of Robin from Batman and Robin. So you want to be an emperor, but ultimately, Dick Grayson, you want to help people. You don't need to be the guy. I don't need to be Batman, but I want to help the people. So that became the character. But it's interesting that you talk about this. Let me just quickly go back, and then I do want to jump into how we have multiple souls in us, because that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
but
I'd love to talk more
I think
about that.
when you're talking about your brother, it's such a traumatic. Not everyone gets
it was definitely
unalived.
Traumatic. Yeah.
Right.
And he was like 2 blocks from our house.
That's crazy.
Between 2 cars, they found him.
Yeah. Like that. That is a traumatic experience. And there's a study that says 40% of people who have experienced a loss of a loved one experience trauma. They hold on to it for 4 months to a year and beyond. When you found out that your brother, first of all, did you guys know that he was living in this world?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're very well aware.
So you're well aware, and then when he passes, what's the first memory that pops into your mind? Because you knew that he was living a tough life, so you're not surprised.
Yeah, no,
but
not
when
at
it
all.
happens, what's the first memory that pops in your head?
Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of memories that pop into my head, so I have to be selective.
What was the first
here.
one that popped in when it happened?
So like when I was told what memory popped up, or right now?
Oh, we could do both. Like,
because I don't know if I would remember in the moment what popped up. But for me right now, there's two memories that pop up. One is because for a little while he used to live in my garage. He wasn't allowed to live in the house because he kept stealing stuff.
Okay.
But I didn't want him like on the street, so he can live in the garage. Unfortunately, it turned into a destination for a bunch of nefarious activity. Okay. So we had to kill that off right quick. But there was one moment where I woke up and I heard the water running. I'm a very light sleeper. The fire is a variable of that. Like I'm sensitive to my environment. I think there was some trauma there too. I'd always wake up with like thinking there's smoke, but it's dust particles that you can see through the light. Sidebar. I hear this noise and I go out and my brother is like trying to wash his face, but he's all puffed-eyed and red, and it turns out he got pepper sprayed. Somebody tried to break in to the garage because my brother had something crazy. There were shotgun shells in the back, thankfully not used. Like it turned into ridiculousness, right? So that's the first memory. I just see him in his state of pure chaos. Like that moment was pure chaos for him. And then the next moment was when I was still in Vancouver. He was also living in Vancouver. He ended up moving there for a little while. And he would drive his skateboard everywhere, longboard, and he had this cello on his back. He never played the fucking thing, but he carried it around with him everywhere. So picture this guy, all black leather overcoat with big biker boots, usually wore a fedora of some sort, and then this big ass cello on his back, and he's coasting down the Vancouver streets on a big longboard.
So he really embraced the character of Johnny Bravo.
That was Johnny Bravo. Yeah. And you could always tell when Johnny Bravo was talking because it was outrageously exaggerated stories. Maybe they were true, but I suspect that they weren't. I think
were you closer to Johnny Bravo or Jonathan?
Oh, both of us had different relationships. Yeah, we had to, because I had to deal with when Johnny Bravo was around. I had to figure out how to manage this character, which was different from Jonathan. Jonathan was a chill dude.
He's a chill dude.
Super chill. Johnny Bravo was intense and was always looking and cautious and aware and was ready to act, even when it wasn't justified or necessary. So you always had to keep him on a bit of a leash. Like it was tiring.
It's tiring. If Johnny Bravo or Jonathan were here, what would you tell them?
I never understood his poetry. So I'd love to get some clarity on some of the stuff that he read and talked about. I never really got it. And because I don't think he would be here for very long if he did come. But he is the type of person that he showed me how to have courage in the most impossible situations. And I would want to thank him for that. In fact, his passing is what prompted me to start the podcast. It became an outlet, like it tends to be for those of us jamming on the mics, to speak what's on our mind that normally is not given any airtime for our reasons or for reasons beyond our control. And so he gave me permission to do that, to take that on. And in so doing that, it set the tone now for a renewed relationship with my belief that I can write. Because for a long time, I carried a story that I'm not a good writer. My 6th grade teacher, English teacher, her story about my writing abilities, or maybe it was junior high, I can't even remember now. I carried that around everywhere, right? And his writing was ridiculous. Like nobody understood what the hell he was talking about. If Johnny Bravo can write, I can write.
Right.
And so I started, and it was, I don't know, it was almost like a passing of the baton, a spiritual, like, it's your turn now to write and speak and share from this context.
And it's Johnny Bravo handing this baton to you.
Yeah.
What about Jonathan? What would you tell him?
I think I would apologize because I was pretty rough with him growing up. I regret that for sure. Both of my brothers, we're brothers, 3 years apart, may as well have been 30 years apart.
Yeah.
Like, we just know relatedness. But yeah, I would have loved to love him more. And now I can through my writing. Yeah.
It's deep. It's, I had to take a step back because it reminded me of my relationship with my brothers. Mm-hmm. Very similar.
They're hard.
Yeah, man. And look, I'm the brother that is demanding because I care, because I love hard. It's not because I'm trying to make other people's lives bad. It's because, I see the good in them and I want them to be...
The opportunity to rise to the occasion.
Exactly, right? It's interesting because you as you're the older brother, right? You as the older brother take on the responsibility of being a mentor, but in this conversation, I see that they've also played a role in being a mentor for you. Mm-hmm. You've done pretty good for yourself too, right?
Oh, I'm figuring things out. A whole lot of FAFOing.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what that is, it's fucking around and finding out.
Yeah, that's a great video on Instagram. It's like, you fuck around, you're gonna find out.
And you kind of have to, right? Nobody's got any answers, really.
Your life is an interesting one, and there are other things. I do want to touch on one thing, and you talked briefly about it. It was about the fire, because you lost your brother, and this is before that.
It was before that.
You lost other things, possessions, everything in a fire. Yeah. And so just quickly talk about what happened there.
Yeah, that was so crazy. It was the day, the second day of starting classes. So this was the program where I would meet Maya. Mm-hmm. And I'd just come back maybe 2-3 months from Germany, running the bed and breakfast. In fact, the bed and breakfast was the trigger, the catalyst for me wanting to pursue this more, because we had built a website. We started to market this bed and breakfast, and it was working, and there was something about it. It's like, I think maybe I could do this more, right? And to figure out what that is. And the precursor to that, I attempted to apply to Alberta College of Art when I graduated high school, and I got declined. And I made that mean that I can't do this. I'm not meant to do this. Being creative, to do creative work. And so that 15 years was me wandering, not really figuring out anything, just resigned to, like, this is, if it's not this, then I don't know what else is going to be. So fast forward all the way back to coming back from the trip and going, wow, this is something. Where can I go to do some upgrading? Set that in motion. First day in class, come back to school, come back home. And at the time we're living on Commercial Drive. So this is my journey to the actual coastline.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody who knows Vancouver. Commercial Drive is a pretty cool place to be, and we were there for about 3 years, full of hippies. I'm not a hippie, so I didn't really relate to a whole lot of people there. But it was still
you're used to not belonging, right?
I'm used to not belonging, truly, yeah. And so I'm back home, and I'm getting ready for the day. My roommate, my best friend, the guy who moved out there, is an alcoholic. And at the time, it was probably the lowest part of his life, and constantly drunk to the point of passing out. And that evening, he passed out in the bathroom. Normally, he would have passed out on the couch, and I just happened to be going through old letters from girlfriends, and the tickle trunk and photo albums. I don't know. I felt nostalgic for some reason. And then that evening, I wake up to basically the windows blowing out of the front. So we're in like a sixplex type building. There's 3 on each side, and we were on the top level. And so the windows blew out, and that's what woke me up. And I could barely hear the smoke detector, and it was just like hazy smoke everywhere. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And in that moment of it blowing out, something else triggered, like caught on fire, and it went from like I could see through it to like black smoke coming down from the top of the ceiling. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was in a panic, right? I had enough time to put some pants on. My sweater that had my passport and my phone and my wallet was hanging right there, and I didn't grab it. To this day, I'm like so irritated that I didn't grab that damn thing. It just goes to show you what happens in those moments, right? Mm-hmm. Like something different shifts. I'm directly out. There's the kitchen, and then there's the back door. And I go to open the door, and then I try to come back in to wake up Jordan, and the door closes because of the smoke. Now it's like, it's intense. So I tried that a couple times, wasn't working. I had to go out the door and hold the door while screaming for Jordan's name. Wow. And then after I had done that, I went and banged on everybody else's door, right? Just making as much noise as I possibly could. Jordan didn't hear me. He didn't hear me for probably 5 minutes. And now fire is coming out from the top. Like it was, I wasn't too sure if he was going to come out or not. And I felt like I was screaming at that door for ever. And finally, like I could hear him kind of moaning words, like delirious, incoherent a little bit, couldn't find his way. So I just kept on talking as loud as I could so he could follow my voice. And eventually his head poked out of the smoke because I couldn't even see anymore. It was just fire and smoke. He had 3rd-degree burns in his throat. He ended up having to go to the emergency. And I stand there. So I remember this moment vividly. I stand there in the backyard watching the blaze, and I hit my knees and just watch everything that I owned go. It's gone. And then in that moment, I let it go. I don't know if it's part of who I am, but I have an ability to let things go. And as sentimental as a lot of that stuff was, and I did a walkthrough afterwards to see if I could salvage anything, and I couldn't salvage anything, and I let it go.
In 2011, there was that flood. I lost everything in my house, and so kind of the opposite. Yours is fire, mine's water. I ran in.
They should have met.
The only thing I was able to save was my wedding album. That's it. I grabbed the wedding album. I said, everything else is just stuff, right? I to this day, I don't even remember what I had, right? But to see yourself or your everything you own burn down to the ground, it's tough, right? We
tough.
Put such a premium on material things and memories, but just like forest fires, you burn it down and it starts up something brand new. Yeah. Well, this started other things that are new, and your friends came and tell me about your relationship with your wife, because she, around that time, right? You met her?
That was when we were just starting to get to know each other, and truly everybody in the class, because class was just starting. And the class that I was a part of, they rallied together. I had lost both my laptops, and so the instructor loaned a laptop to me, and then all my classmates donated clothes and stuff. And man, I was couch surfing for like 9 months from different places, different people. And there was something liberating about it for sure. Like I wasn't tied down to anything. And at the same time, you want to have a place. You want to have roots somewhere, right? But in that moment, I was fine living the life that I was. And that's when I started to, I remember the first time when Maya at the time, she was, like most Mexicans, oblivious to time. And I have no issue saying that at all, because they would agree with me. And I know that they would agree with me. And then there's me, who's a bit of a stickler for time. So much so that I worked on this. My early was probably too early for some people. So she would always come in late to class. And, I just see this picture of the big head of hair, of black curly hair, and not really able to speak at all. Like she thought she could speak English when she came here, and she quickly realized she cannot, like not even a little. Mm-hmm. And so here she is wanting to figure that out and lean in and do this uncomfortable thing, which, man, learning a new language, it is uncomfortable because you are starting from zero again. And when you have this other language that you can lean on, that you're very capable in, it's a real challenge. I've been grappling with speaking Spanish for as long as we've been married now. It's 15 years. But she leaned into that and embraced that. And there was something about her innocence and optimism for life and living life that I was just drawn in. And it was in that moment, it couldn't be denied, at least for me. Maya had no clue that I was into her.
You knew she was the one right away.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. And
are you a hopeless romantic?
I don't know. What is a hopeless romantic? I don't even know what that is. I think I've been in my fair share of relationships, right? And there are relationships that work really well, and there are relationships that couldn't work if you tried. Yeah. And I've been in all of them, of various levels, and there was something different here, and I just leaned into it. I didn't know if it was the thing or not, and it didn't matter. I would just pursue it. Mm-hmm. And so in 6 months we started dating, and then in another 6 months we got married.
Wow.
Or maybe it was 6 months after we graduated. I think that's what it was. But it was very quick. And
when you know, you know.
And there is a truth to that. Like there is something that just works really well. And we are very similar in a lot of ways. I think that's part of why it worked so well, even though we had no clue at the time. And is why we're able to work together in business for as long as we've been in a relationship, because we work well together.
I think that young men now sometimes struggle with the question of whether they pursue romantic relationship or focus on themselves. Mm. And it's tough. And that's why I asked the question whether or not are you hopeless romantic? Because sometimes I feel that this generation is losing that importance. They're like, I'm independent. I could do things on my own, and that's fine. You could do it. You could do things with a good group of people. But when you have a spouse and a partner who has your back, ride or die, and that's how I am with my wife, you just feel unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And the road to entrepreneurship is a world of permanent uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And having that person there, because it's not easy, man, having that person there who's going to ride, who's going to be with you when you're like, oh shit, my bank account is in negative figures. How am I going to put food on the table? Yeah. She's still there.
Well, and she was always a yes for everything.
Yeah, she's good.
So I would have, and still do have, crazy ideas.
Yeah.
And I can be so convincing that I have done all my due diligence around said idea, even though I haven't. But because I'm so enthusiastic about it, passionate about it, right. She's like, all right, let's go. And then it'll go, right? And it'll either work or it won't. And I think that's always been the back and forth between us. Is she also has big ideas, and I'm like, okay, well then run with it, like just make it happen, because it's her idea to realize into the world. I can only be there as a co-pilot, and vice versa, right? And we need those type of people in our lives to be as audaciously optimistic about your idea as you are, but still cautious and pragmatic at the same time. Like you got to balance those two worlds, and that was part of the learning journey over the last 15 years. Is ideas are great, but focus is also really important.
Well, you find the right person. And I've met her. She's a lovely lady, but it's interesting watching your journey too, as entrepreneurs, as a couple. But something that united you too is that you guys both believe in creativity and art and expression. Yeah. And I just want to spend a little bit of time there, because I know that's such a meaningful part of just your overall life and self-expression. Now you've done spoken word, you touched on that, poetry, which is amazing. I've seen you perform live, painting, a bunch of graphic design.
That's where it
murals.
all started.
Yeah. All these really cool things. Like, walk me through the process of you as an artist. How do you get that self-expression? What inspires you? And especially like you and your wife, like, is it the same style? Just walk me through the entire
Definitely
process.
Not the same style.
Oh, no way. Okay.
No,
So
we're very different.
Because you guys do murals together. So how do you determine which is who's taking the lead on that?
Yeah. Well, on the murals that we've done so far, it's more because we started from the premise of creativity with function, with purpose. So it wasn't just art, which is not to say that art doesn't have purpose. It definitely has purpose, but we came from the business side of things. So graphic design, communications, brand, positioning, that was our whole world. And so the design, the creative had to facilitate an outcome. There was an intention behind it, right? We were guiding people through a journey for them to take action on something, and we were leveraging these tools to support that, to enable that. So some of the early murals was really in that wheelhouse. There was a business with objectives, and we saw the opportunity to take advantage of walls and doing something with those walls from a communications perspective, from an emotional feeling perspective that aligns with the brand and your objectives as an organization, which is different from, so it's easy to align creatively on something that's not yours.
Right. You're just executing a plan.
We're executing a plan. We're executing creative direction based on needs and requests. And so there's no attachment to that. Right now, we are just at the beginning of figuring out what does our creative self-expression look like that is ours, not for somebody else. It's our creative self-expression. And Maya's a bit ahead on the journey. She's been exploring this, her professional art career, since 2019. I'm coming in truly this year from the visual expression of this, and I was just recording a video about this in the parking lot before I came in here about, so over the holidays, I had some marathon creative sessions that I would never have given myself permission to do before, because it wasn't connected to an outcome, a return on said investment of time, client related, business related. My whole career has been about that, collapsing my creativity with a return on creativity. Well, now I'm pursuing creativity, and that is the return. And it's a harder, I shouldn't say harder. It's new water to navigate that I'm just not comfortable with, not familiar with.
it's amazing when you're in flow state. Right? When you're in complete flow, you're like, wow,
I started
5 hours or 3 hours is
not even, dude.
that.
Over the Christmas break, there was 2 days where I started at 5 o'clock. I didn't end until 7.
Like 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
So you're in deep flow state.
That was the first time, and I can't even remember.
How did you get into flow state? Because some people just don't even know. It's like runner's high. But
well, I imagine runners just start running.
yeah, and they don't feel anything, and you're in tune with the environment, and you see like a bumblebee flying beside you, and the grass, you see the dew on the grass, like you're in complete alignment with the universe. But for you, did you intentionally try to get into flow state, or you accidentally stumbled into it, and here you are 14 hours later?
No, it was intentional.
Oh, good.
I came with an objective. I knew what I was wanting to create. Mm-hmm. And this is part of the creative process that I'm starting to unpack for myself. What I do for a client, what I do for you, if you're looking to create something, is formulaic. And I can guide you through the process to get to an output very easily, because I've done that forever. Mm-hmm. To guide myself through that process is a very different experience. And I'm figuring out, and it's different, because I'm now attached to the outcome. Whereas before I wasn't attached to the outcome. Now I'm attached. Right. And now my concerns and worries for if it's worth it or if it's good enough or all of that stuff is like right there. One of my characters, my inner critic, his name's Grimwald, by the way. Yeah. He's the one who's like, I don't think that's a good idea, or no, that's not very good. I think you should do that over again. You know what? This is not a good idea at all. You should just stop. That's the narrative now that I'm dealing with. Versus, well, so what I did, intuitively, I felt like I needed to define it. What is it that I'm creating? And so started that process. I did a big mind mapping exercise a couple evenings prior. There are all these things that I am drawn to visually, elements. I use lightning bolts, and I'm fixated with octopus and skulls and whales and flowing smoky type lines. I couldn't understand why I was drawn to those things, but I was drawn to those things. And so I spent time to answer that question. Why these things? What do they represent for me? And do I want to use them? Because I'm so drawn to them. Mm-hmm. And so what would that look like then as something that I would use? Elements, they're all have different meanings, and they all have a different place in this journey of creativity. And so I did that. I defined them all. I looked to better understand how I want to approach putting it on paper. Mm. And then from that, I had a good sense of the elements that I could play with. Right.
You know, are you very close to your German roots?
Not really.
Oh, okay. The reason being is like,
and there are some that I'm close to.
Like Germany has produced a lot of really good art.
Yeah.
I mean, Vincent van Gogh, like he was inspired by nature. Johann Sebastian Bach, right?
You know,
the Bauhaus movement of minimalism started from Germany. So I'm curious if your background or the culture impacted it at all.
Not nearly enough, because I wasn't really introduced to it that way. Here's the other thing that I am still grappling with is, and it was in my film, there's this story that even though I was surrounded by creativity, my mom was a painter, my dad used to tie flies, he was a fisherman, and there are some people who their content channels on social media are them tying flies, and they're fantastic. I would never do that, but like amazing, inspiring. My grandpa and what he did, all sorts of creative pursuits, but it was always from the lens of hobby. It was not a thing that you pursue. I'm flipping that narrative, going, no, this is a thing that I'm pursuing. And so my relationship to creativity is one that was only from a hobby. So you don't invest in history of the arts when it's a hobby. My story, I'm not saying that that's the truth. I'm saying that that was my story. So I wasn't invested. But there are some influences, like the Renaissance is definitely a big impact on my side.
Monet came from Germany, wasn't it?
I'm not even sure. I can't even answer that question, man. And I don't want to answer in case it's wrong.
It's okay. We could edit.
But what I'm really gravitating towards, or have always gravitated towards, was the very ornate and the what's the word that I'm looking for now? The opulent, like whether it was their architecture or, the painting of the Sistine Chapel, like it was very detailed and very, a lot of flourishes and flowing lines, right? Like that's where all those were coming from. And now I'm starting to understand why I'm gravitating towards those things, like what they are representing to me. And then that translated into 2 14-hour creative sessions where I'm taking some of my written work, a program that I put together last year. It's all about recalibrating creativity and going, okay, if I were to translate some of this visually, what would it look like? What would be my interpretation of the words that I'm using here? And then I went down the rabbit hole. And yeah, it was amazing.
It's interesting that you brought up the Sistine Chapel, because you do something similar. You're creating these massive murals.
Absolutely.
And Michelangelo painted that on his back. Like,
it's crazy.
I always I looked at that. How do you do a mural? Like, is it paint by colors? Like, how
there's so many ways to do it,
because it's so huge. Like, you got to walk away and be like, all right, then you come up and paint.
I mean, this is where we're a bit spoiled in our generation, is we've got a lot of digital tools
tech
that can help us paint the picture without having put any paint on walls yet.
That's a good segue. I just want to talk a little bit about the future of art and where you see things, because you just went to the Gathering where you had an amazing experience, and people were, so we'll touch on that, and people were painting. But oftentimes, I'm talking about men, a lot of men don't express themselves through art.
Or at all.
Yeah, they don't express themselves. So what are the things that are preventing us from expressing ourselves? Is it a masculine, feminine energy? What are your thoughts? And, it's only up until this point in time where you're starting to express yourselves. Mm-hmm. So walk me through that journey. How did that happen?
I'm going to be 46 this month.
Yeah.
So
what was stopping you from dipping into this?
Well, that story as well, that it was a hobby. So there was a level of seriousness attached to it. And as a man, you are a provider. And so I'm starting to evaluate my relationship to this phenomenon that is the patriarchy, this command and conquer kind of subservient relationship to master, to ruler, servant. Like it's been around since the dawn of time, right? And we are all impacted by it. And I was also impacted by it. I had my male role models growing up, my father, my grandpa, my uncles, and everybody else that I saw as my senior. And there was always this subjugation to them, that they know better, right? That what they say goes. And you do not question them because they know better. That's been a narrative that's been ongoing forever. But the truth is they don't. In fact, none of us do. And I'm appreciating that now, that there is a time and place for those types of leadership, the necessities of leadership practice. When people don't know what to do, they seek to find someone who can lead them, and it's important. it's important to be a good leader, but that's a whole other conversation. But I think as men, and I look at my generation, our generation of men, we were raised to respect our elders. And in the respecting of our elders, as fundamental as it was, as necessary as it was, also is a handicap. And almost a bit of a shackle in a lot of ways that prevent us as men to really give ourselves permission to express ourselves, because it's not appropriate. That's not who you are. That's not what you do as a man, is the narrative that we've grown up with. And it needs to evolve. It is evolving. Let's put it this way. It's evolving, right? It is being contested to the extremes, because we as human beings tend to go to the extremes, right? We are pendulum swingers, and if it's not right, it's left, and if it's not liberal, it's conservative. But none of it's right. All of it is a decision to oppose something on the opposite side of the spectrum. And it's fine. It's how we will always be, I think, unless we, I don't know, there's another level of evolution that we come to, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I think it can also be a challenge, because there's the pressure, the fear of being judged. Like, to put yourself out there. There's the social norms, again, that you talked about. There's a cultural norms where, especially in the Asian culture, man, we don't talk about certain things. We just don't express. I'm sure that even things like anxiety and depression are suppressed in certain cultures. But I think you touch on a one thing, is that it's most people don't express themselves because they're not in a safe space. Yep. They don't have the environment where they can express themselves, which brings me to the gathering, because you saw an amazing phenomenon when you created this environment.
Yes.
For people to, they're hesitant.
Yeah. It's so fascinating.
And so walk me through what happened, because you tell the story much better, and it's like,
yeah.
So you put this mini mural in a room.
Well, it wasn't even a mural yet. Painting. It was just a drawing on 2 canvases, and we were extending the invitation to others, participants that were at the gathering, to come paint. And all sorts of characters showed up. The ones that were scared to fuck it up and said no. The other ones that maybe thought it was silly and stupid and said no. And then there were those that were like wide-eyed with excitement and anticipation, and like took the brush and paint from you faster than you could give it to them. Like, they were just so excited to dig in. But then there were those who were, I'm going to say, cautiously curious, kind of observing their surroundings and then making a decision to participate. Like, yeah, okay, I don't know, I might screw it up. It's like, there's no way you're going to screw this up. You just pick a color and you fill in an area there. You just match the color to the area.
Yeah.
And
paint by color, paint by number.
Paint by number, right? We wanted to keep it super simple, remove the barriers as much as possible to enable creativity to happen. And it happened. And people were in there, and there's some magic when it comes to a paintbrush, paint and a canvas, wall, whatever substrate you want to put it on. The world turns off. It can't not turn off. The second you put that brush on the canvas, your focus is there. So everything else disappears. And you could see it in those people, when the ones that did it. And you could see the little smiles. Yeah. You could see like the hyper focus, and then after they left, some of them would come back, and they would, almost like a seeker. It's like, hey, could I do that again? Like, really? Of course you could do that again.
Yeah. So it's creating that space. And someone told me that you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing.
Totally.
Right? And this is very similar. When we were kids, we just colored.
We did it all the time.
And as you get older, you stop doing these things.
Yeah.
So it's it's interesting and it's amazing that you're able to do that. You know, your journey is an interesting one. We talked a lot about different topics. We can talk for another hour. This could have easily, because
we totally could.
You know, there's some topics that I'm going to have you back on the show because there are some things that we didn't talk about. But after hearing your journey, it tells me that it's one of resiliency, that you become the man through adversity and overcoming it. I think everyone goes through that, finding mentors along the way, maybe by accident or maybe in hindsight, but also losing everything and finding yourself in the process. And in doing so, it's very similar to the hero's journey. You allow other people to do the same through your art and through your poetry, through your podcast, through everything else. So my last question to you now is that what is a motto that you live by? Why do you do it? And actually, it's two questions. And what is your message to the world and people listening to this?
Well, every year I set an intention. And so it starts with to be known as and know myself to be. You and I talked a little bit about this. This year, my intention, and I'm still massaging through it. I haven't perfected it just yet, but it came from those deep dives into the creative process. And it is about knowing myself to be okay with embracing creative flow more often for myself, and what that starts to translate over the course of the year. I mean, I'll find out, right? We're just starting this journey. So that's one of my intentions. In terms of what I would share with people, I believe that everybody has creative potential. It's just dormant in a lot of ways. And it is an opportunity, and in fact, I think a necessity for each of us to lean in and explore more what that might look like. And it doesn't necessarily need to be paint on a canvas. It doesn't have to be an expression of art per se. Each of us are so nuanced in terms of our passions and our abilities. Our creativity is realized in unexpected ways. And so I think we need to spend more time looking at what it is that we are doing and have been doing, and assessing what is creative about that. Because I talk to so many people that say, oh, I'm not creative. And it's bullshit. Of course you're creative. Look at the stuff that you do. And when you look at the stuff that you do, be in reflection around why that's creativity in action, and own that, right? Like that is your ability to create in the world. And maybe in that moment, another door opens up as an unexpected way to express yourself creatively, leveraging the things that you're already excelling at and really good at. And, or maybe it's something brand new. Maybe it is paint on a canvas. Like really all the options are on the table, and just like get messy and explore it and do a little FAFO in your life. I think we could afford more of it. I think the world would be more interesting if more of us did that.
Love it, my friend. Do more, be creative, get messy.
Yeah.
Fuck around, find out what happens, right?
Yep.
And no, that's amazing. Where can our followers find you? And
well, I have a unique name, David Schmeikal. It's only one in the world as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
There might be a soccer player out in Germany that's got the same last name, but we're not related. So you just search for me there and you can find me all over the place.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We got to have you back next time.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
All right. Take care.